Hey guys, welcome to my basement finishing video. I wanted to share with the world my experience and what I did with my basement. This video is not to show how to frame or how to plumb, but really what I did with my basement, so maybe it can inspire you with ideas for what you want to do. On the screen is the floor layout, the floor plan for my basement. I'm going to take you through a quick video walkthrough so you can see what it looks like before I started anything. Alright, coming down the stairs. When you first get down the stairs, if you look left, this will be where a closet door. This is going to be a mechanical room slash my shop. I'm going to put like a workbench in here. I'm going to wall up this area where the sewage pump goes. And then back here, we're going to leave this open. And this is going to be a storage room. There's going to be a wall that goes right here, and that's where the bathroom is going to be on the other side of this wall. So if you come back to the right, this will be a little hallway to get into the bathroom. If you go left, if you go right, this will be where the bedroom is. This will be where our kitchen is. Great room. I'll put a pool table here. And then another kind of like a living room area that we're going to use as a gym. And then right here is going to be like an audio video room. Put the AV equipment and low voltage wiring and whatnot. Cool. I'll update when we have more progress. Now before I started framing or anything else, there was some pre-work that I had to do in the basement. Notably either to prepare for drywall later on or to simply make more room. Take, for example, this sewage pipe right here. You'll notice that the 2-inch pipe is more diagonal. I actually had to cut that and put that back in to follow the other main drain just so I can actually maximize the space in that room. You'll see later on why I did that. I also moved some of my water lines out of the way because as you notice, they actually come below the joists in the ceiling, and in order to drywall up against those joists, the water pipes do have to be up inside the joists. I also decided to seal all the joints in the basement from the concrete foundation to the concrete foundational walls. There was a small gap, sometimes as small as like a 1/16 or an 1/8 of an inch, all the way up to probably close to a 1/4 inch in some locations. I didn't know if there would be bugs or what getting in there, but I did decide to seal it with a polyurethane sealer. Next up was framing. I did actually go to Lowe's and purchase the lumber myself, as you can see in my truck. And then here are some framing pictures that I did throughout the process. This was the first time that I've ever done this before. I'm a pretty handy person, but I've never actually done framing. I did watch a lot of instructional YouTube videos out there. I did read some of the International Residential Code, the IRC, just to make sure that, what I'm doing does meet spec. Now, none of the walls that I'm creating are actually load bearing. So technically I probably could have gotten away with 24-inch on center, but I did decide to go with 16 on center just for more solid walls. I don't like it when like a door closes or something hits a wall and you can see it vibrate. I wanted really solid walls. So you can see on some of my framing, I also did block framing, not because I need to, just because I wanted to overbuild it. I typically over-engineer anything that I ever do. Well, finished all my wall framing. I'm actually done with everything for the wall framing. I had built out this little room. There's going to be a door on the front of it, but that's going to kind of wall off my subgrade sewage pump. I have everything measured because I'm actually going to fit cabinets on the right-hand side, but then I'm going to leave the left-hand side open. This is going to be like a little workshop area that's going to be back in here. And then, of course, the storage room. This room is going to be walled off as well. There's going to be a door. This is a door frame. And this room will just be used to store stuff. But it'll be heated and cooled. And then I've already gone through the bedroom. This will be the bedroom and then the little small walk-in closet behind it. And then this will be the bathroom. I do have a radon remediation system, so I had to wall that thing off. It sucks, it's right in the way, but I've measured, so on the right of it, we'll be able to fit a cabinet and a countertop, but I'm essentially gonna close off that little radon pipe. It might look kind of funny in here, but not bringing it over to the wall and leaving that little space was a way for me to maximize square footage in here. It is going to be a pretty big bathroom regardless. And then here's the kitchen. I got the wall framed up there. I do have to build a little half wall that's going to kind of jut out, right? That comes this way. That's where we're going to put our cabinets in, like a little, it's going to be like a U-shaped countertop that's going to be in here. This will be a great room. Pool table's going to go here. This is going to stay a gym. Framed out all of these walls as well. So the only thing left for me to frame out now are my soffits. So everywhere now, the main drain line for the home, I got a soffit around that bad boy. And then there's some pipe that's going to be up here as well in the bathroom. I got a soffit around that. Not too much work. And then here in the bedroom closet, I got to create a little small soffit for that. But other than that, once I'm done with that, I have no more framing to do, and then I can move on to electrical. Well, this is the latest update. I ran out of lumber, so I had to go to the store to get some more lumber. I think this is probably my last trip of buying lumber. But as far as framing work, I have my soffit complete for the drain pipe. This is actually all I've been working on for the last couple of days. It doesn't look like a whole lot, but it took me a long time to cut and measure and get it all right. So yeah, it was just really tedious. It wasn't a whole lot of hard work. It was just really tedious to get this thing in. So one thing that I've noticed, or that I thought about before putting these soffits in, is so the pipe that it's going to be hiding has like a grade to it, right? It lowers for every so many feet. It gets lower and lower and lower, so gravity can drain all the nastiness out of the house out. And one thing is, so the soffit right here, the vertical studs within the soffit are 14 inches. The vertical studs in this soffit is 11 inches, and the vertical studs in this soffit is 10 inches. So what happens is, when the whole room is going to be finished, you're going to see this to be kind of a short one. And then as you come over here, it gets a little longer, and then come over here, it gets a little longer, so it steps down. So it's not going to have a cohesive like soffit. It's going to look like every time you go through one of these breaks in the basement, it's going to get lower and lower. So I thought long and hard about that. I could have made it all the same height or the same length, you know, coming down from the ceiling. But if I did that, then this door frame right here, I'd have to actually eat into this door frame and come down below it. And it would make kind of the entryway look a little less grand. So I wanted to keep it as short as possible in here. But what that means is now when I come from the transition from that soffit to this soffit, you'll see it drops down like an inch. And then when you come here, there's actually a major drop down right there. I hope it's not going to look bad, but I made the decision and I'm going with it, and it is what it is. So in here, in the mechanical room, we got the sub panel put in, 125 amp. It'll run this whole downstairs as well as the backyard if we want to put a pool in. I want to stop here and talk about electrical. I am not an electrician, I am not licensed, but where I live in the state of South Carolina, homeowners are allowed to pull permits and work on their homes themselves as long as they live in that primary home. I am fully permitted. I did pull my permits, and because I had plans on doing just about everything I could myself, I did actually read the NEC code and I learned everything I could about residential electrical. I called the building inspector probably 20 to 25 times over the course of me installing all of the electrical in my basement, and I had to learn code, and everything I've done is up to code. If you are not a licensed electrician, I cannot recommend that you do this by yourself. If you are not comfortable around electricity, or if you're unwilling to learn code, please call a licensed electrician to perform the work for you. Electricity is dangerous and can kill you, or can start a fire and then either kill you or other people. As far as HVAC goes, I decided to do a mini split system in the basement, but I did contract that out. I was not going to install that myself. But in order to save costs, I did install the concrete pad for the heat pump outside, as well as run a 30 amp circuit, as well as the electrical disconnect outside. I did it. I did my first electrical circuit today. So first off, in the back of the basement, what I wanted to do was create kind of like a whole house fan type of thing. I was concerned about air getting stale back here and just not enough circulation. So what I did was I installed bathroom exhaust vents in my ceiling, one in this room, and then I did one in this room back here. And the reason for this is because these rooms are going to be drywalled off and they're going to be finished back here and heated and cooled, but there's not going to be any natural kind of air movement that's going to get back here. The only way air can get through it is through this single doorway, and I am going to frame out a door, so really when the door is closed, there's no windows or anything back here. So creating these exhaust fans will allow me to pull air out of this room, which will suck it from the front of the basement and slowly move air from where the windows are to the back, and then get rid of that and just, you know, pipe the air outside. So both exhaust fans are connected to a Y pipe up here. They both turn on together, so they both create positive pressure that then meets in that Y pipe, and they exhaust outside. And this is the first time I've ever done electrical in my life, and it was a learning experience. I did create a junction box up there, and it's ugly as hell, my wiring. I'll probably go back and do it again, but the good thing is it works. I have a dedicated 20 amp circuit for these fans to a 20 amp light switch, and that light switch controls both fans at the same time. Pretty cool. And here's where it exhausts outside. Pretty cool. You can actually feel the air coming out. It's pretty strong. I mean, it should be with both those fans running. I did have to cut 4-inch holes into the exterior of my home to create that vent. I do have hardy plank on the side of my house, so I did have to use a carbide tip bit. In the back mechanical room, the home builder did install a drain line for what would be a washing machine. So I did need to install a dryer vent in that back room, and that's what you're looking at right here. I had to drill a second 4-inch hole into the exterior wall for my dryer vent. About halfway into the basement install project, the HVAC company was coming out to install the mini split system. If you're not familiar with mini split systems, it's essentially just a heat pump system that's split into multiple zones. Inside the home or wherever you're installing the system, each zone will have a head unit, and that head unit is what either pumps out cold air or hot air depending upon which direction the heat pump is running in. In my basement, I have 3 zones, one in the main living area, one in the bedroom, and then one in the back mechanical and storage rooms. In order to install the head unit, the HVAC company needs drywall to install onto. In order to install drywall, I have to have a finished wall behind the drywall. This includes all code items, including insulation and fire blocking. So prior to hanging the drywall for the HVAC company, I had to do my fire blocking and my insulation for code reasons. These pictures that you're looking at are the actual pictures I took for proof to be able to show my inspector, should he ask what's behind the drywall, proof that I do have fire blocking and insulation. This is because the first inspection is supposed to take place before any drywall or insulation are on the walls, and the inspector can actually see if there is fire blocking. And just to be clear, I only did this in the places that the head units were going to be installed on. It was another couple of months before I was ready to drywall the entire basement. Well, I got the lighting done in the kitchen. I step back a little bit. Here's the kitchen, kind of when you enter. Got 5 can lights up there. And then kind of in the great room area, I put a fan box up there that's wired up. So we'll have a fan and a light up there. And then this is where the pool table's gonna go. Got my 4 can lights up there from this outlet right here. As mentioned earlier, I did do all of the electrical inside of my basement. I actually found the electrical to be very fun. I really enjoyed it. Reading residential code and reading the NEC, and then also watching a lot of YouTube videos, it was really interesting to learn how electricity actually works inside of a home and how power companies bring electricity into your home and then how you can use that. And as you can imagine, in a 1,600 square foot space, there was a lot of electrical to do. In total, I ended up running 17 circuits, with 3 of them being 240 volts. I did follow the NEC to a T. I did call the county inspector's office many times to ask questions about technicalities I didn't quite understand inside the NEC. I would say when it came to electrical and doing this in my basement, I probably spent around 20 to 30 hours just reading and researching and asking questions. It really did take up a lot of my time. I might even correct myself and say that that 20 to 30 hours is maybe on the low side. Maybe in reality it was probably closer to 40 hours. I wanted to make sure that, electrical is probably the most dangerous part of doing this by yourself. And if you don't know what you're doing, you can really either hurt yourself or hurt others. So I wanted to make sure that what I was doing was always correct. So with that thought process, I put a lot of effort just to make sure I was doing it correctly. To dive into some of the details a little bit, I did all of my outlets on 20 amp circuits and used 12 gauge wiring. I didn't really want to have to worry about plugging in too many devices or appliances into my outlets and worrying about tripping a breaker. The bathroom completely is on its own 20 amp circuit, including all of the lighting and the exhaust fan. The kitchen per code has two 20 amp circuits divided amongst 5 outlets. All of my outlets outside of the kitchen and the bathroom are divided amongst 3 20 amp circuits. All of my lighting is done using 15 amp circuits, and all lighting except for light fixtures are done using can lighting. The washing machine is on its own 20 amp circuit. There's also a 20 amp circuit dedicated for the refrigerator in the kitchen. I also ran a dedicated 15 amp circuit into the kitchen for a garbage disposal and a separate one for the dishwasher using a multi-wire branch circuit where they both share a neutral. Well, I got all lighting done in the basement except for the bathroom. I have some electrical kind of like heavy duty boxes that are all wired up, ready for fixtures. Here's the closet in the bedroom downstairs. So the bathroom right here is the last thing I'm going to be wiring up for lighting. Got the can lights back here. Sewage pump room lighting. Storage room back here, got some can lights in here. And then of course this little room, got a light up in there as well. It's exciting. I built a small pony wall in the kitchen to attach cabinets to, as you can see here in this picture. The kitchen is essentially going to be a U-shaped kitchen. I got the smoke detectors installed. There's one that's going to be in the utility room, and this is the one that was installed by the builder. I actually just branched off of that one. Here's the bedroom one. And then I put one way over here in the AV room. Right there. I finished my plumbing, sort of. So here in the kitchen, I got the refrigerator line. I have the lines ran for the sink. I just haven't connected it yet to the main water line because I have to shut the water off to do that. I also have the bathroom done. This will be the bathroom sink, bathroom toilet. And this will be for the shower. That's the shower valve. And of course the shower head will be up there. I haven't connected it to the main line either because of course I have to shut off the water for that. And I also did the washer and dryer area. I got the hot and the cold ran for the washer. As you can see, I also have the drain line ran. So that comes back over here. And then I also haven't connected this one either because I have to shut the water off to do that. So I'm going to do all of it at the same time. Part of what I had to do in the basement was deal with the sewage lines. I got lucky when my home builder built my home. They actually included the sewage lines for the future basement build out already in the slab. And they actually installed this sewage pit for me. So all I have to do is really tie into the existing drain lines in the bathroom, in the kitchen, in the washing machine, and it already drains into here. But being that I am below grade, I do have to install a sewage waste pump. Now, if I were to just simply choose a regular sump pump, it wouldn't be enough. It would actually get clogged up. You do have to choose sewage pumps specifically for solids. I did have to purchase a new cover for this. I got it at a plumber supply store. And after purchasing the sewage pump and installing my waste lines, I tested it out. So I just completed the sewage pump installation. You can see right here. Down there is that 4 feet of pit. And so what I've been doing is I uncapped right over here. I uncapped what's going to be the kitchen drain. You can see the hose coming from outside. I turned the hose on and I heard it. I got down here and listened. I was able to hear the water draining down in here. Now I don't know how much water's down there, so it may or may not turn on. It turns on using a float system, but we're gonna plug it in right now. We're gonna see if it works. No, there's not enough water in there yet. I'm gonna go turn the water on. I'll be right back. Okay, just got done turning the water on. You can hear it. Come back over here. And I can hear the water draining in this pit way down there. I'm not sure if this picks it up or not, if the microphone can hear it. But I'm gonna stand here until this thing turns on, or water comes out, whichever comes first. I hope the motor works. If I point up, you can see where it goes. Oh shit, it's doing something. It's working. Ooh, I can hear it. Ah, shit, it works. You can hear the water draining down. Holy shit, I've never done this before. So it'll turn on and off as the float rises and lowers. That's pretty sweet. We're gonna do it again. I'm gonna wait to hear it again, because that water's still filling it up. There it goes again. Wow, that's fast. In my professional career, I'm actually a network engineer. So as you can imagine, being a network engineer, networks are very important to me, and that includes inside of my house. I've actually been very unhappy with the network inside of my house. The builder installed this open house box inside of my laundry room. The builder did wire Cat5e to every room in my house, and it does come back to this open house box. Excluding the basement from my house is around 3,500 square feet, so it makes it pretty difficult to get adequate Wi-Fi coverage throughout the home. Without going into too many details about the challenges that I have inside of my house and how I want to do my network, I'll just say that I'm using the basement project as an opportunity to address these challenges. I decided to use the AV room in the basement that I'm building as a place to terminate all of my Cat5 cabling. In order to do that, I did have to extend the cabling from this open house box into the basement. And being a network engineer myself, I do know some pretty talented people in this industry. I was able to convince a coworker who's actually a structured layer 1 engineer at my company to come and run this cabling for me. He honestly is the best layer 1 structured cabling guy I've ever worked with. As you can see in the pictures, Brett ran new Cat5e cabling from the open house box into the AV room in the basement below. He also ran 2 Cat5 cables to 2 points in my ceiling that I can later use to hang wireless access points. I also have 3 points on the walls where I'm going to be installing TVs, and he ran Cat5e to those points on the walls, as well as 2 additional hardwire jacks in 2 different areas. At this point, there wasn't much left for me to do except for fire blocking. All of my plumbing, electrical, framing, and everything else that I need to do was complete. If you're not familiar with fire blocking and you're considering finishing your basement, please get familiar with it. It is a very big deal to your local inspector. Should a fire break out inside of your home, fire blocking is used to slow the spread of fire from one space to another. For example, you can see on my framing that sits slightly off the wall, there's a gap between the top plate and the joist space up above. If a fire were to break out behind the drywall inside of that wall,
fire could then spread up to the floor above it and then travel through the space in the joist. So to combat that, you do have to put your fire blocking, and you can use a specific foam expander that's specifically made for fire blocking to fill in those gaps and stop the spread of the fire. There's different materials that you can use for fire blocking, but it's in your local code that your local counties will use. My county allows the use of expanding foam, 3/4 inch plywood, 2x4s, densely packed fiberglass insulation, or rock wool insulation. There's a lot more to fire blocking than what I just mentioned. There are vertical and horizontal code requirements. Please refer to your local code. After I finished my fire blocking, I scheduled my first inspection with the county inspector. I was really nervous about this, considering the fact that I'm not a contractor and I'm just a homeowner doing this by himself. My main areas of concern were fire blocking and electrical. I know I had done my homework when it came to electrical. I was prepared to talk about the box fill capacity of my electrical boxes as well as ampacity charts, even going so far as to know the ampacity charts, how they differ from service cable to branch wire circuits. Despite knowing NEC code to the best that I could in the amount of time that I had to learn it, I was still really nervous because of course this was my first time being inspected and ever doing this in my life. But I was very pleasantly surprised. When the inspector took his first step into my basement, he actually walked towards the electrical outlets and started looking at them. I felt he was going to say something, but he just walked around to all of them and then casually looked at all of the other electrical in the basement and then asked to see the service panel. He opened it up and he stared at it for, to me, felt like a very long time. He didn't say anything and then just moved along and started looking at fire blocking and looking at my framing. He had a couple of questions about nail plates and how I was protecting the electrical wiring. I got out my tape measure to show where and why I didn't need nail plates in certain places. There was only one place that he dinged me on where I failed to put fire blocking in the soffit that covers my radon remediation system. He cleared me to move on to insulation, provided that upon the next inspection that they would see the fire blocking in the radon remediation soffit. I don't know if what he told me was just to make me feel good, but he did comment that my work was better than most of the contractors that he saw. I honestly think that has nothing to do with my skill, but rather the time that I took to actually do everything correctly. As homeowners doing this work ourselves, we have the most invested interest to seeing that everything is done correctly and looks good. But regardless, I still felt really, really good.